You've tuned in to the Beyond Hope podcast, your access to success strategies and more to help you survive and thrive through your loved one's addiction challenges while you move onward and upward with your life. Now, here's your host, Shar Jones.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This is Shar Jones, and I'm the host of Beyond Hope, and I'm also the mother of an addict. So I understand what it means to love someone who struggles with addiction. It has been a very long journey for me, but I have gotten to a place of hope, beyond hope, which is kind of the ironic twist to the name, that I think really hope is where the healing begins. And on the other side of hope is life and joy and love and all these things that are no longer contingent upon the recovery of our addicts. So what I'm hoping to do with this podcast is bring to you so many people that I respect and admire, experts within the industry of addiction and recovery who have so much valuable information to share with me, with you, with all of us. And in addition, we'll be bringing you some stories of hope and hopefully some laughs, maybe some tears along the way, but it's going to be all good. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to this journey with you.
I don't care what you think, I don't care what you say, but believe it from a person like me, because people told me I could never get sober. People told me I'd never make it. People told me that I was going to be forever that ex-con gang member drug addict. And you know what? Today I have 10 years clean. October 26, 2007 is the last time I touched anything. And forever I'm grateful for that.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. It has been a while and I apologize for that. You know, it's just been really interesting. I am in this kind of interesting place, I guess, feeling this sense of unease. And I attribute that to the separation between me and my daughter. So she is in long-term recovery right now, and she's been gone for 6 months. And I know she is thriving and she's exactly where she's supposed to be right now. And that is a beautiful thing. And it's funny because I think people expect that you're supposed to be happy and joyous and all of those things. And I am, but there's also this sense of loss, and I can't really explain it. I think it has to do with the separation that comes when our kids are active in their addiction, and they're so absent. And as well, when we get excited about their recovery and then they relapse, there's just a lot of emotions coming up for me right now. So I'm just trying to kind of not be too hard on myself right now, but just being aware of kind of what I'm going through and trying to take care of myself. So enough of all that. Today I am sharing with you Jeff Dougherty. And Jeff is an incredible human being. I have never met anyone like him. And a lot of the work that I've done becoming more active in the recovery community is because of him. His life experience as a very young boy, getting involved in drugs and gangs, and his firsthand experience on the streets with his addiction, and the way that he is able to look back and just really stay so honest with the pain that he caused, and how this impacted 20 years of his life, and how he's able to turn all that around. And he's a family man now, but he is boots on the ground day after day, helping addicts, getting the help that they need. And I just have so much respect for him. I'm excited to share his voice with you tonight. And as always, if you ever have any questions, if there's anything that I can do for you, if you need a friend, comments, feedback, anything, you can always reach me at shar@beyondhoperadio.com. And I will talk to you soon. Bye for now. You're doing incredibly important work on the ground, day after day, saving lives. And I really want to give that the time and attention that it deserves. But before we go there, I just want to pause and kind of go back in time. And I want you to tell us a little bit about your story. What led you to drugs and alcohol? And what was your life like back then?
Well, it's an interesting story. I would say that, first of all, because of, I grew up in a totally different environment. My mom and my grandparents are all missionaries. When I was about 2 years old, we used to travel the country into Uruguay and to Mexico and all over doing missionary work with a group called Youth of a Mission. And that was great. The problem is we were poor. So we lived in Miami, and it was me, my mom, and my sister. As a young kid, I got to learn how to run the street. I would still go to church on Sundays, and I would still do everything that I was supposed to do. But as a very young age, I was impressionable. At about 11 years old, I started, we call them shagging carts, but I would bring in carts from Publix, and I would carry out groceries for people and make extra money. When I was about 12 years old, I had a guy come up to me in the parking lot and say, "You want to make some money?" And I said, "Well, of course." I was poor. I didn't care. And I started running cocaine, so I was running cocaine at about age 12. I started stealing cars and doing all the other good stuff that goes along with that around 13. And I grew up in a very religious home. So I was kind of rebelling against religion and kind of rebelling against my mom. And I was very aggravated, very angry. I didn't have the things that other kids had. My mom struggled real hard. She worked 3 jobs until she got hurt. And did everything she could for us. But we were food stamps, and we were get our clothes secondhand and all that normal stuff that, the poor kids do. So I was very irritable and discontent, and I was just very jealous of everybody because, I was religious, but I was like, well, if there's a God, why is he making me go through this way? So when the opportunity came to make some money, of course I took it. About the age of 13, I got into a big fight with my mother, and my stepfather was an FBI agent at the time. She just got married about 2 years. And of course, being a teenager and being a boy and wanting to assert our power and our dominance, I couldn't have another guy in the house. I got into a fight with my mother and my father, and the police were called, and I ran and I jumped in the canal and I swam away. And, what I did is I got on a bus. My mom picked me up, put me on a bus. I was soaking wet with maybe $5 in my pocket and put me on a bus. And she said, "You're going to California. I can't control you." So I came out here to my father. And my father out here I hadn't seen for 13 years. So I didn't really know the man. And he was busy. And he was an addict, and I'm sure my mother didn't know that. But with him being an addict, I was able to watch him do it with his friends. And it was cool. And everybody drank and everybody did cocaine and smoked pot. And it was the cool thing to do. That was the cool thing. So I grew up in that house. And as I went into high school, I found that I didn't really have a family at home because my dad was too busy with his friends or drugs or whatever. And in high school, I decided, well, I'm going to find a family. So I found gangs. And when I found gangs, it was all about family. And when you're young and impressionable and people love you and want to give you things and do all that kind of stuff, it becomes your family. And that's all that matters. But for the longest time, that's all that mattered to me was those people. My family didn't mean shit to me. When I went through high school, and I got kicked out of high school, of course, for gang activity, and went to continuation school and decided, hey, I need to straighten my life up. So what I did is I became valedictorian of my high school and graduated with honors. I was still starting to dabble in drugs. And my dad said, "Look, on my 18th birthday, you can either go to the military or you can leave." And I didn't have anything else going on. So I went to the Army. And off I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and decided to be an artillery person. That worked out for a little while. But my activities and the things that I did in the military caused me to get a general under honorable condition discharge. And they asked me if I wanted to leave the military instead of getting court-martialed. So I did. And I left the military after a while and decided that I was going to go back to the streets. And I went home. Well, going home, I went right back to the gangs and I went right back to the drugs. For the longest time, I didn't understand why my parents were the mean people. They wouldn't let me stay at their house. They wouldn't let me eat their food and, steal all their stuff and steal their cars, do all that good stuff, while I was there. I mean, come on, why wouldn't you let me stay there? So, and in turn, I caught my first prison term, and I thought I was that guy. I walked into prison, and I wanted to be the important person. I did the fights and the the normal gang stuff that's in there and rose to a pretty high rank in a prison gang and decided that was what my life was going to be like. So over the next 10 years of doing prison time, I was in and out. I did 3 terms and 12 violations and decided that's what I was going to be. I was going to be a gang member. I was going to be a drug addict. I was going to do everything I could to spend the rest of my life in prison. All the time doing this, and the times that I got out, I had 2 children. And during that time with 2 children, I get out on parole. I had a child with a lady, and she went to prison for sales. I went to prison for sales. Both those kids got put up into foster care. Getting out of prison for my 3rd time, in the vicious cycle. And I was just so broken and so beat down and so devastated on what I had done to my life and to my family and everything like that. And I had just heard about AA. I had heard about NA. And I didn't really care. I wasn't a big God fan. I was pushed to go to God so much when I was younger. But it wasn't something I was drawn to. I have her see me get high and go through all that trauma that my other kids have gone through.
Yeah. I mean, if that doesn't motivate you, I don't know what would.
Well, the other 2 didn't motivate me. When it comes down to it, I didn't give a shit about my kids. I didn't give a shit about my family. I didn't give a shit about my freedom. All I cared about was getting high.
Somebody asked me recently, which it just kind of set me back. She just looked at me and she said, "Why is your daughter a drug addict?" And I was really taken aback by that question, to be honest with you. I didn't have an answer for it.
Well, here's the theory behind it. I've worked with everybody from the bums on the streets to movie stars. And the fact is that drug addiction affects everybody. I've seen people that have millions and millions of dollars be drug addicts, and I've seen people that don't have any money be drug addicts. And it just happens. I don't know if it's chemically or what. Nobody is a little kid and saying, "Oh, well, what do you want to be when you grow up?" Nobody says, "I want to be a drug addict." It's always, "I'm a firefighter, I'm a cop, I'm a nurse." Nobody says, "Hey, I want to sell my body for drugs. Hey, I want to destroy my family and everything around me so I can get high." So nobody plans that. It's not a planned thing. And I don't know if it's hereditary, because my father was an addict, or, if it was something that was a victim of circumstances when I got into bad circumstances and I tried it, and the chemicals in my brain liked that drug. And I was off and running. I mean, no other drug. I mean, I tried heroin, I tried crack, I tried pills, I tried it all, and no other drug affected me like speed did. I was able to take a shot of heroin and put it down and not touch it for 6 months. It didn't bother me. Some people can't do that. They have to have it every couple hours. I was able to do cocaine and was like, okay, this is garbage. What can I do next? But methamphetamines took me to that level where I could not stop. And when people like to have that argument over it, it's a disease or it's a choice. And I like to tell them this, it was a choice for me to use when I first used, but it became a disease when I couldn't choose not to use it anymore. And everybody goes, "Well, how did you stop in one day?" I said, it became so bad that there was no other choice but die or get sober. So yeah, it is a choice, but it is also a mind-altering substance that makes you do things that you would never do.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that's out there that's smoking crack saying, "Hey, I'm going to sell my body every day to get some crack." That's not what normal people do. So anybody that thinks that's normal behavior is crazy. And even in the drug culture scene, it's, okay, I'm a snorter, so I'm better than the guys that shoot it. Or I'm a smoker and I'm better than the snorter, or I'm better than the guy that uses the needle.
Right.
I work on the streets every day now, and, I go out there and help these kids that are out there on the streets, and I see it. And how many of those kids I asked, "How many times have you overdosed?" "Oh, 10 times, 12 times. That's not reported.
Right.
But these are kids that are out on the streets, sleeping on the streets, stealing for whatever to get high, and they're overdosing all the time. It's normal for them. It's okay. The girl I talked to today was like, "Oh, this girl stole my Narcan." I go, "So what happens if you do this last shot before you go into rehab? What if that overdoses you?" I said, "What are you going to say?" "Oh, I'd say, why did that chick steal my Narcan?" And I'm like, really? And, these 2 that were going into treatment didn't have any insurance, didn't have any money, and I spent 7 hours with them trying to get them into treatment. I finally got them all the way down to Costa Mesa to get into a free facility and they decided they wanted to use more drugs. So they'd rather go out and run the streets than go to a place of scholarship. And that happens every day. I opened Foundations for Recovery quite a few years ago. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to personally visit each rehab. I wanted to talk to the clinicians. I wanted to talk to the staff. I wanted to talk to the clients. I wanted to find out, why is the program special? What makes it different? Because I get calls from parents all the time, and they'd be like, oh, well, you have to do a clinical assessment and actually find out what's going on with the person. Are they bipolar? Are they dual diagnosis? Do they have schizophrenia? Do they have seizures? Are they diabetic? There's a whole bunch of issues that you need to know before you can even say, hey, this is a good fit for you. What I like to do is tell the parents, okay, here's my 3 choices, what I think are good, better, and best. Take a look at these 3, and these are the ones that I like that are in your area or that will help you, and see if that works for you. And then you decide on which one you want to go to, because it's ultimately their decision. But if they rely on an expert in the field, they can say, hey, this person knows this. This person's actually been there, seen it, touched it, felt it, and they actually know what's going on with it. And we started following our clients. Now we're on year 4. So we follow our clients up to 4 years now. And the nice thing is to see the success stories, the ones that actually made it and doing better, and they know that they have someone to call if they mess up. If they mess up, that's okay. I mean, I prefer they don't, but if they mess up, I'll still help them. They might be going to Salvation Army, but, hey, you got to do what you got to do. We go out on the streets, and when we work in Tent City and we work in Skid Row, and we work out on the streets where these kids are being curbed from rehabs when their insurance runs out, or they don't have any money or any insurance, or I get a lot of kids out there that just turned 26, so they're off mommy and daddy's insurance and they don't have anything anymore. A lot of that's just the desperation that is so much more impactful to be able to see the actual things that are going on here, because a lot of people just see it in a movie or a TV show. Mm-hmm. But it's worse than that. If they went down there at night and, down to Santa Ana and the Civic Center and went down there at night, it's Zombieville. I mean, people are shooting dope, smoking dope all the way around, and people are selling their butt, and it's just gnarly. And people are living in tents, and there's, 200 people living in a little square that everybody's squished together. And what we're doing is we're having a big problem because the city doesn't know what to do. We don't have enough funding. And what we need to do is start educating not just the kids and not just the adults that are out there, but actually the city and the state, and get them on board with, hey, what can we do to make it different? Not just house them. Let's get them some education, or let's get them a job so they can support themselves. Yeah. You could just drive down the road at night and you can see homeless all over the place. Mm-hmm. And we live in America. We live in the biggest and best country in the world. Why can't we take care of our people? What's going on here?
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest challenges for parents is when we have to make that decision where it's like, this is what I'm not going to tolerate. And if that means that I have to put you out, that's what I'm going to have to do.
Nobody wants to see their kids sleeping out in the cold. Nobody wants to see their kids sleeping out in the rain. But, what happens when they steal your diamond wedding ring and pawned it for dope? What happens when they broke in your house and let everybody come and party in your house? Or, what happens when they steal your car? Maybe it hasn't got that bad yet, but it's going there, and it's got to get there, because drug addiction, when it happens, will go to the worst possible way. I know some functional addicts is what they like to call themselves right now. They can use drugs, and they only use it on the weekends. But after a while, it becomes an everyday thing. All of a sudden now they've lost their job, they've lost their car, they've lost their family, and it's the same story over and over again. It's like I like to tell these youngsters that are out there. I said, you know what? You know why I know your story? Because I did exactly what you're doing 20 times more for 20 times longer. So as a child, we don't want to hear nothing because we know it all. And I'm sure all the moms and dads that are listening will know that how many times have we tried to teach our kids something, and, as a teenager, they're too bullheaded and they don't want to listen and they want to do it their way. Well, sometimes the cold hard fact is that they got to do it their own way. It's like burning your hand on the stove. Once they burn your hand on the stove, they might not do it again, but they might do it again. You never know. And I'm going to be real blunt here for a minute, but this is what I always tell the kids. So anybody that doesn't want to hear this, cover your ears, because this is what I'm raw and real, and this is how I explain to them. And I explained it to them like this. You're a virgin, right? And you as a virgin go watch every movie there is, right? And you've read every book there is on sex. But until you actually had intercourse, how are you going to tell me how it feels? Because you can't. You don't know that feeling. You don't know that experience, because the fact is that, you know what? You can read every book and you can be as book smart as you want, but you're never going to feel the desperation. You're never going to feel that overwhelming desire to go use and nothing else matters, you're not going to know. This is an overpowering will and desire of the mind and body that will make you do things that you never thought you would do to be able to satisfy that urge. Now, addicts can change, but it takes such a massive amount of work and a massive amount of time and giving up a lot of things to be able to change. Because if you don't want it more than anything, you're going to go right back to that circle.
Yeah. There's a lot of people in the industry of recovery that can talk all day about what needs to happen and how an addict thinks and all these things. But until you've been a parent and watched this happen to someone that you love so much, loving an addict, it's heartbreaking, Jeff.
Let's take it this way. You've been through this with your child. So for you to talk to another parent about this is what you're going to go through, this is what you're going to have to go, and this is how you're going to feel, and this is what's going to happen, that other parent is going to look at you like you're crazy because they're like, really? No way, not my kid. Instead, because now you are an expert because you've been through it. And it's the same story with every kid. I don't care if the kid lives in Beverly Hills or if the kid lives in Compton. It's the same story. And the parents are going to go through the same thing. And that's why a lot of these support groups and everything are good, because the fact is that they can rely on what other parents have gone through and what the experiences that they've gone through and know what's coming, because they can tell you, hey, think how much you could tell a parent about what you went through.
Absolutely.
Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to listen, but the fact is you've experienced it, and they can deny it all they want. And they can also say, oh, it's not my child, but I'll bet you $100 the same stuff's going to happen.
It's just all about, for me, is just planting a seed that when you shift your perspective off of fixing your kid and onto yourself and taking care of your own self first, everything changes. Everything changes. Right. That's my message to my moms out there that might be listening. I don't want to take away from what we're talking about here, but tell us a little bit about what you're doing out there every day on the streets. What keeps you going? What motivates you when things happen like today, where you feel discouraged? How do you keep going?
I'd be brutally honest when I say what keeps me going is I make a living amends every day by doing what I do. I did a lot of shitty things in my past.
Yeah,
I robbed a lot of people. I hurt a lot of people. I did a lot of bad things that I can't make up for. So this is kind of my living amends by giving back, by letting people know that there is hope. And doing what I do, it's hard. It's not $1 million work. I live on a very, very short salary that helps me get along. But, it's a passion more than anything. It really is. My wife doesn't understand, but it's something that just drives you inside because of, I was one of those lost ones. I was the ones that said, they said I would never get sober and that I would never make it and I'd be in prison for the rest of my life, and I was able to show them wrong. So I like to deal with the hardcore people and the people that are knuckleheads and let them know, hey, there is hope. You can change, because I changed. I've got all the stupid tattoos and I've got all the, the stories and all that good stuff, but none of that shit matters. It's all part of my story and a part of my past, but it makes it so, you got to be driven. You got to be able to go out there and work every day on the streets and deal with people that are lost. Like the two that I picked up today were very, very bipolar, very schizophrenic, very codependent, and they're yelling at each other and they want to shoot dope in my car. And I don't allow people to use dope around me. And I'm like, look, you have a choice. Do you want help or not? If you don't want help, get out and go do what you're doing. Yeah. I'm done playing with you. I played with you guys for 7 hours, and you got to want it too. And don't give me the stories of, hey, drive me here, drive me there, because I'm not your taxi.
Right.
I'm not your daddy. I'm not your mommy. I'm not your girlfriend. I'm a person here trying to save your goddamn life.
Right.
And if you don't want that, get out.
Absolutely.
And that might be harsh to a lot of people. But in dealing with this every single day, I deal with so many addicts and alcoholics that you have to be hardline with them, because so many other people are out there just for their money, for their private pay or their insurance or whatever. But you know what? Screw that. This is about saving lives. This is about smacking them in their ass and giving them a reality. And I tell parents all the time, I just told a mom the other day, her son got a scholarship to a place in Colorado. Well, the son decided to leave after 2 days and come back to California. Well, mommy's an enabler, grandma's an enabler. So he didn't like the program. And now he's court ordered to the program, and he decided to bail out on it. So now he's in jail because he didn't do the program, because I talked to the DA for him and got him approved to go to the program, did all the legwork, got him a scholarship bed, got somebody to pay for a ticket for him for free, gave him some spending money and everything like that. These people volunteered to help pay for that stuff. And he decided to walk out after 2 days. And then the mom wanted to be angry about it. And I said, okay, so let me see here. Everybody put in about a week's worth of work for your son. He got a $20,000 scholarship for free, so it didn't cost anybody anything, no insurance, no money, no nothing. And this is a mom that's very poor. Somebody paid for his plane ticket, somebody paid for his baggage, somebody gave him some spending money and all this. And he decided to walk out because he didn't want to do the program. So is the right place for him jail? Absolutely. Will I help him in? Absolutely, but only on my terms. Because he's done this. This is like his 8th time doing this. I'm going to leave and I'm going to go back to mommy's and I'm going to do dope and I'm going to sell dope out of mommy's house. And mommy's going to cry online and mommy's going to cry, to everybody else about how my son deals dope. But she's letting him stay there. She's letting him deal dope out there. If you cry about it, you can't let him stay there and do that because you're enabling him. The bad behavior continue. It's like when you have a 3-year-old. Do you let your 3-year-old keep doing temper tantrums in the middle of the store? Or you take him outside, and she'll potentially lose her housing and everything else over this because he's not supposed to be there. So she could lose her housing and she could lose all this other stuff because she decides that, hey, I feel bad because my son says he's going to die and my son says it's cold. So I'm going to let him stay here, but I could lose my housing and I could lose everything I have because I want to let this little kid run my life and do whatever he wants. He's 25. So it's time to grow up. It's time to pull up those big boy pants, get a job, and be like everybody else in America.
There's a lot of denial going on and a lot of confusion for moms and parents and family members who they're in a fog, as thick of a fog as the addict, really. And it's incredible how parallel those paths are. The last time that I went to the courthouse and she was going before the judge and the public defender had pulled me aside and said that they're thinking about having her do more time, and I had her recovery all set up for her. So of course, I was heartbroken to hear that, but I was so honest to him. And I said, you know what? I don't trust my judgment right now as to what's best for her, but I can tell you that she's got this incredible opportunity. And basically that whatever you do, letting her out without getting her into that treatment program would be the biggest injustice that he could do for her. So that's the part that's so frustrating. Is that if they will just let them out the door and off they go with an expectation that they've learned their lesson and they're going to know how to make better decisions. That is bullshit.
It's the same thing with heroin overdoses now. You go to a hospital on a heroin overdose and you're outside the hospital in 3 hours.
With no plan.
So you just had somebody potentially die and you're going to let them out in 3 hours to go back to do it again. Oh, this is a great idea. I love that idea.
Yeah, I think things are changing. I really do. But it's been a slow process. And because of that, how many overdoses were there in 2017? Like 65,000?
That's reported. So that's not even the unreported ones. Now, I always tell parents too, it's much easier to put our head in the sand and pretend that it's going to go away or pretend that it's going to be okay. But it's not. The more we pretend, the worse it's going to get. I promise you. And when you lose, that ring that your mom gave you and suddenly that's a 6-year-old ring and it's gone, you're going to know where it went. When your car's gone or we're breaking into your house, you're going to know why.
Well, a lot of parents feel guilty, all right, because they think that their kid stole something from them. And the mom is like tearing the house apart, looking for whatever it is, the laptop or the ring or whatever. And they think they're losing their mind. They think they're going crazy. And then when they find it, they feel this guilt, right? And I'm like, sorry, I don't buy into that. They have not earned that. They have not earned that.
Yeah, you haven't earned that trust. You've taken away the trust because you've stolen before. I always tell people this too. I said, I can't go in front of the judge for a DUI and say, hey, judge, sorry, I drank too many. I made a mistake. Can I get out now? You did it. That's it. And the next time when you come in, even if you had a point, whatever, and you didn't get a DUI, but you got a reckless or whatever, they're not going to go, oh, hey, you committed a crime one time, so, don't worry about that.
Right.
Your actions have spoke louder than your words. Because any drug addict or alcoholic is going to tell you everything they want you to hear so they can get what they want. And that is either a place to stay, money, whatever, a ride. They're going to tell you whatever you need to hear so I can get what I want out of you. And then when you don't give it to me, you're going to be the worst person ever. You're killing me. Oh my God, you're going to make me sleep outside.
I definitely have a soft spot for the homeless because my daughter's drug addiction led her to living in a tent, led her to living in shelters, led her to homelessness, living in a car. And as a mom, once you see that, it changes everything. Your perspective on everything changes. It's awful. And I've had to be the one that drops my daughter off. Now, some people they're not going to understand this. Maybe they think I'm a bad mom for this, but I've been the one to drop her off and writing down a phone number to suicide hotline. I'm not saying that she was suicidal, but it's like, listen, your choice is to get out of this car and to not go to treatment and not get help. It's a tough spot to be in as a parent.
This is one thing you might want to tell your parents. What I tell them. I said, look, when you're calling me for advice, there's a reason for that, right? I said, it's just like if I took my car to the mechanic. Because the mechanic knows what he's doing, right? So I take my car to him to fix it. Now, am I going to sit there and tell him how to fix my car, or am I going to let him fix my car? So just like an addiction, unless you go to somebody that's been there and spent the time and effort and the knowledge behind it, you're going to be, you don't know. It's like, okay, can you take a transmission out? I can't. I have no clue. So I always tell them that, and they get blown away on that because I go, that's the cold hard fact. We all know how to do an oil change, but you know how to do a brake job? It's a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
And they're like, huh? They're like, no, I never touched the brakes on a Porsche. I'm like, well, me either. So I bet you if we tear it apart, we can really mess it up. Or when you want to take it to the mechanic and have it done right, talk to somebody that's expert. Talk to somebody that's been around for a while. Above all else, this is a business. And it's a business that's growing every day with millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Well, listen, this is the stuff that kills me, is when you hear parents that say that would never happen to my kid. That is somebody that doesn't have a clue.
Right.
Because I've had my daughter jump out of the car with it moving to avoid going to treatment. But let me back up, because where I was going with the homeless piece was, and my heart goes out to them, right? And I see these kids and I'm like, I know that kid right there holding that sign is somebody's son or daughter. Sometimes I will just say, does your mom know where you are? I mean, you're sitting at a light and there's a kid standing there with the sign. And sometimes I'll ask them, it's like, does your mom know where you are? When was the last time you spoke to your family?
Well, what I tell people, I never give money. I'll bring a sandwich to them. I'll bring water to them. Yeah. I will give them a list. I carry a resource list with me. So in my county, you can look up all the free resources and everything like that. And I printed it out. And I have a stack of 100 in my car. So every time I pull up the light and I see a kid like that, I go, here's a resource list. If you want it, here's help. Here's a sandwich.
Yeah.
And I started carrying socks and tarps with me.
Yeah.
Because a tarp at the 99-cent store might give somebody some shelter that didn't have. So at least I know they can cover themselves up in the rain. And I used to carry socks because socks are the number one thing homeless people always want. And I give a pair of socks to them. But if you give them money, they're going to buy alcohol or drugs. Guaranteed. Don't care what you say. They're going to buy drugs or alcohol every single time. I know a bunch of these homeless kids out there that sit on the corner and they make $100 a day, begging for money, and that pays for their hotel room, that pays for their drugs. And that's their routine. They're caught in the vicious cycle of, I'm going to get my drug money, I'm going to get my hotel, or they won't get a hotel because they want to spend more on drugs. And that's what they do. No, and it's hard because it pulls on our heartstrings, especially if we see a mom with a little kid. Of course. Man. I always want it, but I ask them, hey, what do you need? Do you need some formula? Do you need this? Do you need diapers or whatever? I'll go get them for you.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to give you the cash. No, and I've seen it happen. And some people tell you, hey, I don't want food. I just want money. And I'm like, I would respect you more if you stood out there with a sign saying, hey, I want to buy some drugs.
Yeah, right.
And I've had a ton of them that want to claim that they're vets. And I ask them, where did you serve? What's your MOS? They have no clue. And they're like, what? And then I know they're full of shit.
Yeah.
You know, and that's hard because, you know what, there are a lot of vets out there that need help. But there are a lot of resources for vets also.
I like the idea of keeping a list with you. I'm going to do that. I really like that idea.
And you can do that in any county, in any state. You can go online, look up, you know, the resources in your area, ask. You know, we made a Facebook page called Free Resources for Addicts and Homeless.
I'm on that.
What we did is we put it for every state so everybody can put their own from wherever they're at. Because I want the parents to work at it too. You want your help for your son, but what are you willing to do for it? Are you willing to take an hour out of your night to look up free resources? Because if you're not, you're begging me for help, but you won't help yourself or your kid. You know, and we're trying to build something that's open to everybody, so everybody has a resource in anywhere they're at. If they're in Waccamaw or if they're in Kentucky or wherever, they need to have those resources and know where to find them.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of resources out there that a lot of people don't know about. I mean, there's a ton of people that get free bicycles for when you get for work, or working wardrobe that'll give you a free wardrobe to go interview in. And Friends Society will pay for your DMV fees to get your license back. There's a bunch of places that will do that. But if you don't do the research, you don't know.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Tomorrow, we have a group called Operation Healthy Hearts that I go out with Friday. And in El Monte, they do a feed on the riverbed for the homeless families that are in the riverbed. You know, and they, a girl named Jackie puts it on, and she does a homeless feed, and they got hygiene, and they get clothes, and the Department of Health Services goes there, and the LA County Sheriff's help, you know, and they give a lot of resources, but there's only maybe like 30 or 40 people that show up. If we were able to do that in every county, and they make them work for it, okay, what are you going to do? You know, hey, you get the free food, you get the free clothes, but here's a list. Here, talk to this person over here and see if we can help you. You know, they got to be able to get 15 minutes of their time, you know, to be able to get anything.
Yeah.
Because, you know, otherwise all you're doing is giving a handout, not a handout.
Yeah, I love that. The hand up. I love that. We all have a path. We all have a journey that we have to walk. And I think it's just trusting your path and trusting your place in this world.
You know, and everybody, like down here in California, it's the big thing in Dana Point is saying, oh, you know, all these homeless people, but they have no solution for it. So what do we do to help get these people off the streets so they're not doing that?
Thank you for saying that. That's part of what we're here for, right? It's just to continue to explore more areas where we can continue to give and make a difference. And I just want to thank you for talking with me. Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we close?
The one thing I like to tell all parents is, look, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Get that through your head. It's not your fault. You know, remember that you're dealing with someone that's sick. Mental wise, not physically wise, but they might be that too, but mentally wise. So they're not thinking in the clear mind. They're not thinking about how they love you. They're not thinking about how you used to take them to the ball games and everything like that. This is somebody that has a serious addiction problem that needs to get serious. But if you put your head in the sand, it's not going to go away. If you don't try to get some help for them, they're not going to get better. It's not going to wave a magic wand and all of a sudden one day they're going to be like, oh, I'm good. No, it's not going to happen like that. They need to be reprogrammed. They need to get some education. They need to get some therapy. They need to actually go through some of the stuff. And there's plenty of options out there, even if you have no resources or no money. You just got to look or ask. If you ask, you know, I'm here, you're here. You know, my phone doesn't shut off. I leave my phone on 24/7. And anybody can call me at any time. You know, my number is 714-733-0222. If you need an ear to listen to you or person of reason or anything, you know, I'm there. I don't care. I don't care who you are, where you're from, if you're a senator or if you're a janitor. You know, I'm here to help with whatever. And so are a lot of people out there. And if you realize that you have that help, you know, that 10-pound phone won't feel so heavy to pick it up and say, hey, I need some help. But it starts at home. You as a parent have to pick up that phone and say, hey, I need help. What can I do? And hopefully with this podcast and some other stuff and the resources and the people that are out there, you can get some information, some knowledge and be able to grow it, you know, and share this information with other people and other parents as you see them going through it. Because the fact is 9 out of 10 people in the United States have somebody in their family that's addicted.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. I was thinking that, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. I get that. But as soon as you see it for what it is and you start to get educated and you start to understand what you're really up against, then going forward, you are responsible for what you do and how your decisions impact your kids. And at that point, in my opinion, once that fog starts to clear and you start to see what's really going on, you are responsible for how your decisions impact your loved ones. And I feel that.
If you've been dealing with addiction with your family for over a year, yes, you're part of the problem. If your kid just started using 3 months ago and you don't really know, then yeah, I can understand being naive and not knowing. But if you've been dealing with this for over a year, you're part of the problem. You need help at counseling just as much as they do.
Yeah.
Because you need to learn how to do healthy boundaries. You need to have tough love, whatever way works for you. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I don't care if you do it with Jesus, the gym, 12 steps, whatever. Just find a way that works for you and find a way that works for your kid or your husband or whoever it is that's an addiction, because it's a disease that affects everybody.
And to those parents that think that, it wouldn't happen to my kid, and if it was my kid, I would know. I'm sorry. I'm going to call you on that, because there was no shortage of love for me, for my child. And I did not know. I didn't know that my daughter was a drug addict. And so it can happen to you. Don't trust that you're going to know the signs. Get educated.
My mother was a missionary. My grandparents are missionaries. I grew up in the church. All my family are preachers. So if I can go down that road and become the worst of the worst, then anybody can. I'm grateful that you have this going in and you're able to reach the moms out there. And what I would also suggest to the moms is share it with another mom. Because even if they're not going through it right now, they know somebody else that is. I guarantee it. So by keeping quiet and keeping silent, it's not going to cure this addiction. In the 12 steps, it says that we need to be anonymous. I tell people, you know what? I don't follow that for a reason. Because you know what? If I could scream from the top of my lungs at the top of this mountain and let everybody know I'm an addict and I made it, then I will. Because you know what? If I'm loud and proud and show people that I made it, then it might just save somebody else's life. If I shut up and I don't say anything, then somebody else might die.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I can tell you that being anonymous made me so physically sick for years. Remaining anonymous for my daughter did not help her. It did not get her clean. It didn't change her life. It didn't save her. It just made me physically sick. So,
and one thing also for parents is get educated, read up on it, ask around, look at the different things, talk to other parents that have been through this. So you don't fall into the traps as everybody else did, because we all do. We all do. We love our kids, dearly, and we want to do the best for them. But in the end, we're not dealing with our kids right now. And like I said, I'm super grateful and super humbled to be able to be a servant out there and just helping whoever. And I'm super grateful for people like yourself that are getting the word out there and able to share the message with other people and letting them know that they're not alone. Because the one thing we feel as parents when our child is that way, we feel alone. We feel so alone and so ashamed, and we don't want anybody to know. I've dealt with plenty of families in Beverly Hills that, oh my God, I can't tell anybody my kid's an addict. Well, you know what? Maybe you should. Yeah. Maybe you should be like, hey, I need some help. Hey, these $1,000 therapy sessions aren't working. Maybe they need a kick in their ass and not live in Beverly Hills right now.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, if there's an addict listening right now that is feeling like they can't do it, what do you want them to know?
That there is hope. There is help. It doesn't matter. Like I said, if you have money, insurance, nothing, we'll find you something. There are plenty of programs out there that will help. And maybe not a program's good for you. But you know what? Start with day one. All it does, like they say, it starts with one step. And one day. And even though I have over 10 years clean, I only have one more day than anybody else. Because what if something really bad happens tomorrow and I decide to use over it? The only reason why I don't use today over it is because I have a different way of thinking. I know with every fiber of my body, if I use again, I will be in prison for life or dead. And that's it. And that takes a long time to get there, because a lot of addicts don't get that at first. It took me 20 years to realize that. So remember, don't lose hope on your kids. Have those healthy boundaries, but don't lose hope on them. Always give them that love, but always keep it at an arm's distance. Because if you don't, we will use you, we will steal from you, and we will take everything you have. And not just monetarily yours. We'll take all your emotions, we'll make you physically sick, and we don't give a shit. All we care about is getting high.
Thank you, Jeff.
So once again, like I said, I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I hope that, you get some response on this. Let me know. And, hopefully it touches someone's heart and realize that they're not alone and that there is help.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in and for helping me to connect with other moms of addicts or loved ones who are struggling with addiction in their lives. If you have questions for me, comments, suggestions on future show content, or perhaps there's a specific topic that you would like to hear from an expert in the field, I would love to hear from you. I am also interested in sharing your voice. So if you have messages of hope or personal stories that you think would resonate with our listeners, please send me an email. You can type me out a message, or you can include an attachment to an audio clip with your voice. You can send that to shar@beyondhoperadio.com. And with that, thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Beyond Hope. For show notes and more, head on over to beyondhoperadio.com.
A huge thank you to recoveryinnovators.com and James Healy. Thank you so much for putting up with me and for helping me to produce and launch the show. I couldn't have done it without you. You are so awesome. And to anybody else who has been considering working with James, highly recommend him. Please go over to his website and check it out, recoveryinnovators.com.